Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Amanda Shee. I'm an anesthesiologist and intensivist, and today I want to talk about my 2022 New Year's resolution / goals. I don't typically do a New Year's resolution type thing, but in this past year, in 2021, I have had to do a lot of introspection, reflection, and evaluation of what I want in my life and what makes me happy and what I want to achieve overall and big picture. And in that time that I've been assessing my life and making life changes, 2021 actually brought a lot of really big life changes for me. It has helped me recognize that certain practices have helped me achieve what I want in life and have helped me achieve a sense of calm and a sense of satisfaction with many domains in my life. So to give you guys a little bit of a recap that I wasn't very transparent about in these videos, but in 2021, a couple things happened. One, 2021 was actually the first full calendar year that I wasn't attending. So that was kind of a big step in my mind. I think, wow, I made it. I have had a lot of ups and downs in my first year and a half as an attending, but in my first calendar year as an attending, there have been some really challenging cases, some really challenging interactions, and a lot of opportunities to learn from them. So that, from a career standpoint, was a big deal. Early in 2021, I was studying for my oral boards, which I took in April. And there are a couple of videos that you can find on my channel if you're interested to hear more about how to study for oral boards, anesthesia oral boards, and how I kind of went through that whole process. But one of the things that I did not talk about much when I went silent on this channel was my personal relationship. So in early 2021, I was in a long-term relationship that ended. It was amicable, but it was a big life change, and it forced me to look inward and figure out what it is that I am looking for and what is important in my life and what things I need to prioritize and how I could be happy on my own and how to kind of work through conflicts and emotional regulation, etc., etc. So that was actually a really big change in my life that required a lot of work, a lot of personal work. There was a lot of crying that happened. There were a lot of calls to my friends about how broken and sad and hurt I felt from the whole situation. And then there was a lot of moving forward, and there was a lot of positive change and a lot of good habits that were created and a lot of reprioritizing and recognizing what my priorities were and being able to shift my mindset in such a way that I am much happier today than I was in January of 2021. So I figured that this year would be a first year I would try something new with making resolutions. One of the things that I picked up in 2021 was journaling. So you can see my journal. And what I've done with journaling is just each day that I can, I take some time to reflect on what I'm feeling, how something went at work, how things are going well or not well, why I think they're going well or not well. I go over things in my personal career, aspirations, thoughts, whatever comes to mind. It's kind of a stream of consciousness writing. It's not at all structured. It's not at all something that I would ever publish, but it is something that allows me to reflect back and record the things that happened to me over time, and has helped me both from the standpoint that it is cathartic to get negative thoughts or angry thoughts or sad thoughts out there, but it is also helpful to reflect on where I could improve my response to things, where I can reframe how I interpret things, etc., etc. Anyway, that all being said, before I started recording this video, I wrote down a couple of domains that I wanted to cover in terms of my New Year's resolutions. And if you guys want to do this with me, please feel free. I essentially broke it down into a personal domain, a finance and money domain, a relationship domain, and a career domain. And one of the really tough things I wanted to bring up on here is that becoming an attending is really hard for a lot of us because it suddenly means that we don't have like a next step. So for the last decade, I have been looking at the next step. So it's been like, oh, when I was in college, I needed to get into medical school. So I needed to take the MCAT, I needed to apply, I needed to do interviews. And then once I was in medical school, I said, oh, I need to study for step 1 or the USMLEs, my licensing exams. And after I studied for the exams, I needed to apply to residency and figure out how to do that. Okay, once I got to residency, now I have to figure out what I want to do for fellowship. And then I applied to fellowship and I did that. And then suddenly it was like, oh, this is it. This is the job. I'm working now. I don't have like a next, this is what I have to be doing or working towards. I have to actually create that path for myself and decide what it is that I want to be doing. So that was one of the big challenges that came up in the career domain. But I digress. So let's hit some of these points in terms of my New Year's resolutions in each domain. So first and foremost, on a personal domain, as I have alluded to, I really struggled with the beginning of the year, and it was a lot of things. It was stress, it was a lot of work, it was studying for oral boards, it was life changes. It was just a lot of, I think, loss of identity, or not being able to figure out what my identity is. And that was really challenging. And so as I go into 2022, I'm going in feeling like I have a better sense of myself. I have a way to work through things. I have a really great support network, and I feel like I'm gonna go into 2022 trying to continue to work on myself. I am going to keep doing this journaling thing because now I'm almost done with my second book of journaling. And last night, one of the things I did for New Year's Eve was reflect upon my old journal from 2021, from the beginning of 2021 when I started it, and see how far I've come and recognize how time can change your perspective and your viewpoint and the things that are important to you. So it's been really helpful. So I'd say that in the personal resolution domain, I'm gonna keep working on myself. Oh my God, so cliche. But it's important to keep recognizing where you can continue to grow, where you can find areas to improve, and where you can work on yourself. So another part of my resolution is to continue my Peloton exercise regimen. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you know that every morning I post a boomerang of me on my bike, and it's just like sometimes I just do 10 minutes a day. It's totally fine. I don't need to do more than that. It's something that I pride myself in, is that if you at least get on the bike and exercise for a little bit, you have accomplished something. And I have really stuck with that mentality, and I feel like it's actually made me a lot healthier. It's a great habit, and it's something that I want to continue in 2022. Another big thing that I've been working on is trying to be better about my diet. Those of you that know me in real life know that I love fried foods, specifically chips, specifically a particular kind of chips. But anyway, I have a bad habit of being stressed and stress eating, and I'm working on it. I don't think I've done so well in the recent past weeks, but hey, it is what it is. But I have done more cooking this last year, and I hope to keep doing that, trying new recipes, things like that. And so that's all in the personal domain. In terms of the finances domain, so something I don't talk a lot about other than how much money I'm making from YouTube, is the financial side. And I actually really want to talk more about finances because I think it's an important part of life and it's an important part of becoming a doctor. I do talk about in another video the investment of becoming a doctor, and I go through a comparison of, I have an engineering degree. What would it be like if I just became an engineer versus becoming a doctor? Does the money aspect work out? Does the investment work out? Ultimately, I personally feel like the investment worked out for me, but it may not work out for everyone the same way. So in terms of finances, a couple things that I've been thinking more about is clinical medicine and medicine in general really takes a lot of investment in time and it takes a lot of who you are to stay in medicine and to be in medicine. And in a lot of ways, clinical medicine is not sustainable. And because clinical medicine is not sustainable, and that's something that I realized pretty early on becoming an attending, I have aspirations to do administration and to get out of clinical medicine. But that being said, it may not work out that way. So I'm also being realistic and thinking, you know what, right now at this juncture in my life, I am single, not married, I have no children. It is a great time to try to work really hard, save money, and perhaps consider trying to retire early. So that's something I've been looking into most recently in the last few weeks or months or so of what does it take for me to be able to retire early. And I've kind of crunched some numbers and thought about my current financial situation, and I am like, you know what? I need several $1,000,000 to retire early, and it takes a lot of work in order to achieve that kind of goal and a lot of clinical time. So that's something I'm trying to work out, but essentially for my New Year's resolution for 2022 in the finance domain, I want to pick up some extra shifts because that's right now my biggest income stream. I want to keep investing and saving. So I reflected back on 2021. I was able to save at least 50% of my income to just invest and have as a way to build for my retirement. And then another area too I've been trying to explore is what are some passive revenue and passive income streams that I can build. One of the challenges about clinical medicine is that I spend a lot of time on clinical medicine, and as a result, I don't have a lot of time to put in the research and the work in order to build up some other revenue streams. So that's something that I'm trying to balance and figure out what the right approach is to that. Now, to move on into my relationship domain, I have been dating, and that's where I will leave it at for this YouTube channel. I will just make the comment that online dating is really challenging, and it is really challenging as a single woman physician to go out and find a good match, a partner. And one of the challenges about online dating is truly that you don't start from somewhere in common, or you start from scratch, and you have to figure out who an individual is without having had those prior interactions. But that doesn't mean it's impossible. So I think that the relationship domain in terms of my love life is an important area to me because I do have goals of having a family, having children, and those are really important priorities to me, though they're not the priorities that I'm focusing on in this particular year in 2022. So I'll leave that for my love life. In terms of other relationships, my friendships, that's one of the things that in 2022 I really strengthened and was able to forge new friendships with people at work that I finally feel like now in my 6th year living in Boston that I could consider this a new home. I finally have really built up a network of people that I can see and enjoy the company of, and it's been great to be able to have that. And especially with going through a breakup, it was important that I was able to rely on really incredible people to vent to talk things out with. And for all that, thank you guys if you're watching this. The other big thing I like to bring up too is that I don't talk about it a lot here, but my family is very important to me, and being able to communicate with them and keep in touch with them, be able to actually see them. So this year I was able to go home for the first time in a year and a half, which was very, very different from prior years. I usually went home a couple times a year, and this was a first because of the pandemic. So I really cherish my family and they're really important to me. So that's something that I will continue to make a priority in 2022. So finally, my career domain. I know I kind of started off a little bit on the career side, but to be more concrete about my career goals for 2022, I alluded to the fact that I want to do more administrative work, and I actually got a promotion this year in an administrative role. And so I'm really excited about that, being able to build upon that. I'm applying for a variety of other roles that I think could be a good fit and could be a good stepping stone for me and my goals longer term in administration. But at the same time, I recognize that I'm still an early attending, I'm still junior attending. And the reality is that it takes time to build myself up to be able to get into an administrative role. And as a result, I'm trying to just focus on not being impatient, focus on the fact that I still want to be a great clinician. That is my first and foremost goal right now. Even though I'm planning on leaving clinical medicine, that doesn't mean that I cannot work towards or strive towards being a great clinician and educator for the residents and medical students that I interact with. So that is one of my big career goals for 2022, is to continue to build upon my knowledge and continue to get the experiences I need to be a respected clinician so that I can work my way into the administrative roles in the future. Okay, that felt like just a lot of stream of consciousness talking on here, but I would love to hear from you guys. Are you guys doing New Year's resolutions? Are you doing goals? Do you feel like splitting it up into these domains, personal, finances or money, relationships, and career could be helpful to you? I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to hear some of your thoughts on some of my goals. Tell me more about what you're thinking down in the comments. If you liked this rant, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you want to hear more from me. If you did not like this rant, do nothing. Don't click any other buttons. Just ignore this and move on. But thank you guys for watching. I do appreciate it. Happy 2022, and I'll see you guys next time.